Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Sukup. On behalf of VMUG, I'd like to welcome you to today's ControlUp Webcast. Keep your EUC environment running smooth with ControlUp and Scoutbees, presented by Yoel Stuker, Sales Engineer of ControlUp, and Tom Fenton, the technical expert at ControlUp. Thank you for participating in today's webcast and for your continued support in the Global VMUG program. Before we begin, I have 3 quick housekeeping items to go over. First, today's webcast will be recorded and available for you on demand. You will receive an email with the on-demand link, so keep an eye out for that. Second, a Q&A session will follow today's presentation. All questions will need to be entered in the question window near the bottom of your GoToWebinar screen. Third, there will be a short online evaluation that pops up as you exit the webcast. Please take a minute and let us know what you thought of today's session and what you might like to see going forward. All attendees from today's webcast who opted in at registration will be entered into a raffle to win a pair of Apple AirPods Pro. The winner will be contacted directly by ControlUp, so good luck. All right, let's get started. Tom and Yoel, I'll turn it over to you now.
All right, great, thank you. As was mentioned, my name is Tom Fenton. I'm actually a technical marketing manager at ControlUp, and Joel is a sales engineer. Let's just dive right into it. We got about 3 slides, and then we'll go ahead and start demos, because here at ControlUp, we really like to do demos. A little bit about ControlUp, if you don't know anything about us. We are a venture-backed company. We've been around for about 10 years. During that time, we've had a self-sustained business model, and we're up to about 1,000 customers worldwide. Basically what we do is we're monitoring, troubleshooting, and remediation product that focuses on, but we aren't really limited to EUC environments. With ControlUp Horizon customers, they can monitor their EUC environments in real time and proactively track the experience of their end users. And then we also have some guided troubleshooting things and built-in actions that can quickly remediate problems with an environment. I think that's the key point there, and that's something that differentiates us from a lot of our competitors, is that we can remediate problems. Not only will you know you have problems, but we can remediate those as well. We work with all the major players in the industry. Microsoft, we support the Windows operating systems, desktop, server, whether they be virtual or physical. VMware, we fully support ESXi, vSAN, and Horizon. And with VROPS Horizon going away, VMware customers can actually now purchase ControlUp licenses as an add-on to their Horizon license directly from VMware. So you can either get the license from us or from a VMware if you have a contract and relationship set up with them. We do support NVIDIA. We can get the GPU metrics from those GPUs. You know, GPUs are becoming more and more popular for not only rendering, but also artificial intelligence, and those are a real valuable and rare resource, so you definitely want to monitor those, and we give you tools to do that. We also support Citrix. We know a lot of people run Citrix on vSphere, so we support that, and we also support Nutanix. So what we do real-time metrics. We can get those every 3 seconds. We do remediation. This can either be done with script actions that you set off, or you can automate those, so when an error anomaly is detected, it can be corrected automatically. We have a nice dashboard that's color-coded. We have columns. You can sort these columns, you can group these columns, and it basically gives administrators a fast, real-time heads-up view of what's happening in their environment. We are very engaged with our customers. Like Joel said, he used to be a customer, now he's a employee of ours, and we're always looking to facilitate the feedback into the product. For example, we just built some scripts around the FS logic and put them into our product. So when a metric passes a threshold, we can it'll set off a trigger to execute an action. You know, this can solve a problem or provide more context around a problem and be used to enhance performance, and I'll show you that a little bit later. We do collect historical information. This is great. Not only can you use it to do your trending, see if you're running out of resources, and if you need to maybe go out there and and start looking at bringing some more servers in, or maybe you can go ahead and get rid of some servers, free them up for other things. But we also collect metrics. We collect these in the cloud, we autonomize them, and you can compare how your environment compares to the rest of the world. This is our architecture. It's really straightforward, really easy. We basically have one EXE that you need to run on a Windows machine. We have an in-RAM database, so everything runs really fast, and we store the historical information up in the cloud. We do support things like the UAG. If you're using that in your environment, we do support that. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into the demo, show you what the product's about. As I go through the demo, we're going to take a look at some Horizon metrics. I'm going to show you how instant clones are presented to us, talk a little bit about GPUs, management actions, Horizon script actions. I'm going to use two different environments. I'm going to use the lab I have here locally, and then I'm going to use something called Test Drive. We'll talk about automation, how it can be used to solve a problem that a user is having with not having enough resources. Then we'll take a little bit of a look at insights, that historical data. Then I'll turn it over to Joel, and he'll get into one of our newer products called Scoutbees. So let's go ahead and take a look at my environment. This is the Horizon Administrator Console. You can see I have a pretty small environment here. This is the dashboard of Horizon. It gives you, a little bit of information. You can go into the desktops. Again, gives you, kind of the basics. And this is the ControlUp Insight console. I'm taking a look at my entire environment right now. Right now, I'm taking a look at the hosts. These are the ESX servers that I have in my environment. You can see that I have quite a range of host tiers, everything from a little Nook to a PowerEdge 620 to a 610 to a Dell 720 RX. You can see how well they're performing, how stressed they are, what kind of memory they're consuming. And to the far right here, you can also see things like the hypervisor version that you're running, and the build. Of course, VMware best practice says you should be running the same build in your entire environment. So this is just a real quick check on that, and you can see that I'm a little bit out of date there. And even things like NTP servers. You can see I have a couple NTP servers that aren't set up quite right. We also do the EVC checking. This is extremely important if you do vMotion. So it gives you a real good overview of your host, gives you the information you need. We also take a look at the storage, and you can look at your data stores. One thing I like to do with the data stores, basic information, I like to look at the IOPS, make sure that they aren't getting overloaded. And I also like to see what kind of free space I have. If I'm going to deploy a new workload, this is a real quick and easy way that I can see where I should be deploying on, what data storage should go on. You can also take a look at all your machines. These are the virtual machines or physical machines in your environment. And something that always really bothered me about the vSphere console is what machines are powered on, what machines are powered off. I know it's kind of a silly thing, but the vSphere console just doesn't make that real easy to see. So what I can do here is, like I said, we have grouping on here. I can go ahead and drag that up, and it groups them. These VMs are powered off, these VMs are powered on. It's a minor thing, but again, it just makes my life just a little bit easier there. But what most people are interested in is the EUC environment. Real easy to add a EUC environment. Basically click this icon, tell it whether you have a Citrix or Horizon environment, give it the URL of it, give it the credentials for someone who has access to the connection broker, and say okay. And literally in less than 3 minutes, it'll go out there and populate it. It'll get the connection servers as well as the desktop pools. Let me go ahead and focus in on the connection servers. You can see the upper level here has the overall health of all the connection servers in your environment. In this case, I only have 2. It looks like everything's running pretty good. This stress level indicator is something you'll see on the dashboard and all of our different dashboards. And you can click that and see why we're having a low stress level rather than a none. And it looks like I have some problems with my connection server certificates not being valid. And other than that, everything else looks like it's running pretty smoothly there. I'm not over consuming CPU. My memory utilization is running fine. Here's that connection certificate that I'm having issues with. It is licensed. It even tells you what you're licensed for and how you're licensed. This is a concurrent user license. And it tells you, your connection server version. In this case, I'm running an 8.0 and a 7.12 in the same environment because I'm doing the transition. Where most people tend to spend their time is in the desktop pools. So let's go ahead and focus in on those. This shows all the desktops in your pools. And then you can go ahead and click on them. But before I do that, I want to go over here and take a look at the ICP desktop pool. One of the nice things about our solution is we just don't collect information from the Horizon connection server. We just don't collect information from the desktops themselves, and we also collect information from the hypervisor. So we have these 3 different sources of information that we gather information from. So it gives you the full picture of what's going on with your environment. So the top line again shows you the aggregate. It looks like I'm having some kind of issue here with my environment, and I can dive down and see what the stress level is, what's causing that. It looks like I have one highly stressed machine, and that's shown down here. Having some problems with the logon duration, and I might not have enough available machines. So, and these are configurable. We set some basic guidelines, but then you can go in there and configure them as you see fit. So let's take a look at this machine that is having some issues. Let's do a little troubleshooting on it. Looks like we're having some page file and average logon duration issues. And going here, we can see other information about the machine, when it was created, the average user input delay on it, pretty much all the information that you want. The Horizon agent version, you can see I am a little bit out of date on that. That should be 8.0. We can also go into the session view, and this shows your active users. And this guy, again, having some issues with it, high CPU usage. So let's dive into it. We have this little virtual expert that'll guide you through a process to correct the issue. So it says, let's go and take a look at the processes in your environment. And we do have this deep introspection that we do get information about the processes. Again, we're collecting information from a bunch of different data sources. It looks like this user is running VLC. Not really sure what's up with that. So maybe we should have a little chat with him. So I'm gonna send him a chat message, what's up with VLC. And he'll get it, and maybe he'll respond, maybe he won't. And maybe if he doesn't respond, what I want to do is just go ahead and, stop that process, kill that process. Don't need to go into his machine to do this. It kills it. it's gone. And maybe this user, it's against our policy to run VLC. So we can go ahead and go into sessions, machines, and go to processes and disable process execution. I don't want VLC to run in this, so I will put that in the process name. And every time he tries to run it, he'll get this message saying that VLC is not allowed to run in our environment. And if you have any questions, please contact us. And that way we won't have that problem again. Like I said, we do collect historical information as well, and that's in the ControlUp Insights. Let's go ahead and dive into that. And this is a web page rather than the console. The console runs on-premise, and the Insights historical data is stored out in the cloud, so you guys don't have to worry about having this storage available to it. The top Insights, this first page, lets you know how you're doing overall, your IO peaks, what's happening here, slowest logons, how many user sessions you have, how many peak concurrent sessions you have. This is important for licensing. How many users you have, all this great information here. We also do sizing recommendations to make sure that your desktops are right sized. Mine is in horrible shape. Virtually all my desktops are over provisioned, and it looks like 50% are using over provisioned on CPU, and virtually all of them are over provisioned on RAM. Right now, we're in a unique situation where a lot of people exploded their VDI environment to deal with the work at home environment here. So we need to make sure that the resources are right sized. So we can go ahead and take a look at CPU recommendation. This jump box says that I should remove 3 CPUs. I have 6 assigned to it. Have a nice chart over here that tells you why it thinks that. So this bottom green line says, yeah, you're really only using 22% of the CPUs that you have allocated to it. This dashed red line is what we're suggesting, which is 3 CPUs. And then this top blue line is how many you have allocated. So it gives you, not only tells you what you should do, but it gives you why they think, why we think you should do it. We can also go into computer trends. We collect these. I'm going to take a look over the past year. And this is helpful to see if you're trending upward. Maybe you need to start the provisioning process for a new server so you aren't caught short-handed, or maybe you're underutilizing your resources and you can free those servers up. And the CPU utilization for the last year looks like right about Christmas time, I had a nice peak there. Right here when COVID first hit, when we had a lot of people working from home, had a few spikes there, and then lately we've settled down. But again, it's good to know that you're having these peaks, but it's better to know why. So I'm going to go ahead and click this guy, and it shows me the computers that are the top resource users of that. Go ahead and click into that, and it'll tell me a little bit more about that specific machine, this Windows 10 Direct Connect A. And I can even go ahead and click this, and it will tell me the process that was running that caused the high CPU usage. So, again, it's good to know that you're having these problems, but it's better to know why you're having these problems. Let's see, what else can we tell around there? The computer statistics, trends. This shows you the memory usage of your host. So Insights, historical data, is good, but you can dive into them, which is a little bit better. From there, I did mention that we would be using a test drive. If you're not familiar with test drive, it's a really, really slick thing that VMware put together. And what it is say an environment, a live environment, where you can use VMware products or their partners products, such as ControlUp. And what we did is we wrote some walkthroughs that kind of walk you through different scenarios you can use ControlUp with. And so just type in ControlUp and you can see we have a couple pages of walkthroughs that show you how to do these different scenarios with it. If you want to use ControlUp, we did a nice write-up on it. And you can just do a Google search for ControlUp and test drive, and it'll tell you how you can get access to it, because it isn't accessible generally to the public. You need to be invited to it, but just send us an email or go to portal.vmwaretestdrive.com and you can get set up with it. And once you get set up with it, it will allow you to either use desktops or applications. We have a ControlUp Console running as an application. And I brought it up a little bit earlier because it does take a few seconds to bring up. And let's go through a troubleshooting scenario. And go ahead and click on test drive, focus in on this guy. I'm going to take a look at the hosts. Need to connect to all my machines there. Take just a second to connect to them. Yeah, you can see the little ball there. That means it's going out there, getting the initial information from it, connecting up to it, and then it will populate it. I'm looking at the hosts, the overall host. Looks like I'm having some issues with one of the hosts. So what I can do is go ahead and click that stress level. And again, the guided walkthrough troubleshooting. Going through there. Stress level again, looks like I'm having some disk kernel latency. Looks like I'm having some disk queue depth. And the data store read-write IOPS are pretty bad. So again, drill down into it, expand host level, and it'll tell me which machine I'm having the issues with. And let's go over here. Take a look at the machines. And that machine will tell me which machine I'm having the issue with. I can go to the sessions or processes, go to the session, and from then I can go ahead and go to the process, and it will dive down and tell me exactly on this machine what the process is that's causing me the issues. What did that take? Five clicks to do that? And this process, I could kill this process, or maybe it isn't a process I want to kill, but I don't want it to overutilize resources, so I can give it a lower process priority. I could, go below normal on it, and so it doesn't overconsume the resources on it. So 5 clicks to find an issue and solve the issue. Another issue that we were seeing customers having a problem with is with the dreaded logon duration. So let's take a look at the demo targets. We'll say that we got a call from a user, says that he's having some issues there, and we know that he's in this group. So take a look at his machines or sessions, and we can see that, yep, the stress level is high. on that guy. The UX score is not looking good, and the login duration is, just horrible, 162 seconds. So ideally, we'd like to know why that is taking so long. So we have a script that we can run against that, and what that does is it goes out to the logs on that machine, gathers the information, it sorts that information in chronological order. It gives the delta of when it started to the time that it finished, and then it will display it right here, and it pretty much tells you exactly why the logon duration took so long. And we can see that it took 164 seconds to do that. And it looks like the big issue is that the group policy has taken 144 seconds to run on that. And so that gives us an idea where we need to dive in on and figure out why that group policy is taking so long. And of course, it does the other actions, the scheduled tasks for when it logs in. Let's see. Let's go ahead and get rid of that guy. The user input delay is also an interesting metric that we get. It is the time someone clicks a action on the desktop to the time that action is completed. Another issue that we see a lot of people having problems with is just the networking issue, either latency issues, issues with blast. So let me go ahead and pull up the UX score, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some network issues here. Looks like we're running pretty good, but let's take a look and see what's happening with the network. The top network sources by the traffic volume, I set it to collect this information for 3 seconds. And it looks like most of the traffic is coming from this IO meter process. So it gives you good information that way. If the network's getting bogged down, it'll let us go in there and see why. You can also, let's run a script here. Go in and take a look at other information like the blast information, the statistics on that. I think the last demo I want to do is take a look at this Dallas. Say we have a user who is complaining about slow time. His application isn't running like he wants it to. So right there, I'm going to go ahead and drill in on this user Tom.Fenton. And the application he is running is, let me bring that guy up. He's doing some 3D modeling, and I'm going to bring this over here so you can see the need to user input delay. Watch this column here, the user input delay column, and as I rotate this model around, you'll see the user input delay in this cell right here kind of get higher and higher. We're at 16 milliseconds, 250 milliseconds. So it's definitely an issue that he's having. And what we can do in that case is because we don't want to sit here and right click and give him more resources. Let's go ahead and let me show you how we could create a trigger script. And I actually did this before to deal with the issue. And this one is called a responsive CPU priority. And so what I said is I'm going to make a trigger, and when it senses something going on that we don't want to, I'm going to have a script action take place to correct the issue. So in this case, I want to take a look at the processes, and when the input user delay is greater or equal to 15 milliseconds, and the name is, Acrobat 32 exe, I'm going to do something. And I want to limit this to this one specific folder. You can do it globally, or you can drill down into a specific folder if you want. I'm going to run an action. In this case, I'm going to run a script that takes care and sets the priority to above normal. Go ahead and do this. I don't have right permissions in the test drive. And then I give the trigger a name and a description on it. And so when it senses this, it'll go ahead and set that process to normal. In the test environment, the test drive, things don't always work as we want them to. So I can't show you how this would work, but that's how you set up a trigger. And in setting up triggers and script actions, actually Joel, who will be here giving you a demo on Scoutbees in just a second, wrote a excellent blog on that, on how to set those up. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Joel. I'm going to make you the presenter.
All right. Yeah. All right. So let me share my screen here. So thank you, Tom. There we go. All right. So thank you, Tom. This was very insightful. In the meantime, I've been answering some questions on the chat. If there's any things you want to add, feel free to kind of like add some context there, but we'll get back to that at the end. I want to kind of, talk a little bit about Scoutbees and kind of start where you left off. So you showed us ControlUp Real-Time and ControlUp Insights, and ControlUp Real-Time and Insights do a great job in monitoring kind of these infrastructure components of your EUC environment, right? So you talked about the connection servers and things like that, and of course, the VDIs and your RDS host. And ControlUp does a really good job at collecting performance metrics, collecting events, metadata from all these different data sources. Then on the user side, so when a user has a session, we of course have our very lightweight ControlUp agent that collects similar data, right? But then kind of more user-centric. So again, these performance metrics with a very strong focus on metrics such as these kind of like what determines the end user experience, right? Latency, bandwidth, user input delay, as well as certain events that happen, as well as that metadata. But we've been doing that successfully for a long time. But everything that is kind of user related, because we use the agent starts when the session starts. So the collection of metrics and being able to remediate, to be able to do the automation through the triggers you just mentioned, first require the session to be there. Now, in all reality, when I start my day and I walk up to my desk, doesn't matter if I'm in the office or here at home, that's not how my day starts. That session isn't there yet, right? I first go to my UAG. If I'm in the office, I go, the workspace, the VMware client I launch, and I go through these steps. I authenticate, possibly with two-factor authentication. Then, I get all my icons. I click on the icons, and these steps is currently these three kind of there's some stuff going on, of course, that's not visible, like when these connections get established. But all these things happen before the session starts, and that is before the ControlUp agent launches. And yeah, that is kind of a blind spot, or used to be a blind spot for ControlUp real-time to, from an end user experience monitoring point of view. And that is where Scoutbees comes in. So Scoutbees is really focused on that front end of the user experience. And what it is a application and desktop availability monitor, and can act as an early warning system for if certain applications or desktops are unavailable. And what unavailable means, that could also mean, like, for example, there's an issue with authentication. So there could be other types of connectivity issues. And the reason why this is very important is this is, of course, all the purple stuff you just talked about is also important. But if I have an issue with an application, it might impact some other users, right? Maybe other VDIs that are running on the same host if it's really bad. But if my connectivity, so if I, for example, have an issue with UAG, or I have an issue with the connection servers, or even internet connectivity issues to my data center, it's going to impact, especially now with so many people working from home, it's going to affect tens, hundreds of users, and that impact is much bigger. So this solution really will give you that early warning if there's an issue in the connectivity and the availability of your virtual desktops and possibly your virtual apps. Now, the easiest way to look at this is it's an insurance policy, because in my conversations with various customers, when I talk about this and I ask them, what do you have today? They say, well, our early warning system are our users, right? We get like tens of support tickets or support calls if users are unable to connect to our resources. So it is very important that that you cover this, because the moment you get calls from your users, especially when that happens, when this rush comes in the morning, the moment you get these calls, you're actually already too late. And you really want to have these kind of early notifications that if there's an issue, so that you can address them before it becomes a real problem and really going to impact your productivity, or at least your users' productivity. All right, so that's the only slide I have on it. So I'm just going to go out here and I'm going to show you the product. It is fairly straightforward. So Scoutbees is a SaaS solution. Now I talk a little bit about how there is a nuance to that, but Scoutbees, there is only a SaaS version. There was a question about on-prem on the chat or on the questions here, and there is no full 100% on-prem version of Scoutbees. So let me preempt that question, but it's also probably not as relevant, because the testing itself. So what we do is to test the availability of apps and desktop, we're using synthetic logins, or synthetic transactions sometimes are called. And these logins can happen in two different ways. So what I want to do is, there's some terminology you need to learn about. So I'm going to just walk you through how you would set this up. So if I have an account, I go to scoutbees.io, click login. If I have a fresh account, I get to see this. It's blank. There's nothing going on here yet. And the first thing you see here is this reference to a Scout. Now, what is a Scout? So I click on Create Scout. The Scout is a test definition. So it will include how I'm going to connect, how these synthetic logins going to connect. So for example, through which connection server or through which UAG, what service account I want to use for it, what resource am I actually testing, what interval do I want these tests to run on, and eventually associated with this Scout, aka this test definition, I am going to set an alert policy. So that is a Scout. And when I click on Create Scout, the first thing it asks me is, hey, what about the Hive? So that's the second term you need to know. And trust me, those are the only two, Scouts and Hives. So Scout is a test definition. A Hive is where the synthetic login starts from. Now there's two options there. So this is, when we start running these tests after we create test definition, we will do these synthetic logins, and out of the box, this product comes with Cloud Hives. That means that, without really setting anything up, you log in, you click on Create Scout, you select Cloud Hive, and you select one of the 3 locations we offer from within the product. If I select that, the next choice, in this case for VMware, would be, hey, do you want to use the Cloud UAG or your own UAG? And then I fill out the other details. So this, if I do a Cloud Hive, it is best to kind of like look at it as mimicking a remote user, because that's how I always explain it to customers, right? How many scouts do I need, and how would I set this up? Well, you want to kind of have these tests simulate or mimic a user, the best. And you have local users and you have remote users. Remote users connected through UAG. That would be, I would typically use a Cloud Hive. However, if I want to also set up a test, kind of simulating or mimicking a local user that connects directly to the connection server, I would do a custom Hive. A custom Hive is very simple. It basically requires you to provide a Windows machine. You install the Scoutbees Hive software on it. You link it with your Scoutbees account, and then when I select custom Hive, it will show up here. Now, I don't have any Hives set up right now, but it's super easy to do. So let me just cancel out here and first set up a custom Hive. And how I do that is I click on Add Hive. I give the Hive a name. So for example, this is corporate HQDC Hive 01, right? Let's just make something up right there. I'm going to download the software. And when I click on Add, it shows me a key here. So I'm going to already copy that key. And while this one downloads, all right. Go. We're going to install the Hive software. I'm now doing this on my own machine. Normally, I would do that on a dedicated machine, of course. But it's very the Hive machine you're doing for that doesn't need to be anything special. It's a very lightweight application that does the testing, and it really doesn't require much. Just follow the Windows system requirements for this machine, and you should be good to go. So once the installation is finished, as you can see, it was really kind of next, and I think 2 times next, and then eventually, once it's done, we'll get to finish. And I'm going to run the Cloud Hive, the custom Hive config, which will start automatically. Put in that key. And what you will see here, once it's done writing the configuration and starting the service, is that there you go. There's our Hive. And what you will see now is, just do a refresh here. If I select custom Hive, there we go. There's our Hive. So now you see that this one here in the bottom changed. Now I can also select the connection server, because internal users, they don't go through the UAG typically, so they will connect directly to the connection server. So we actually haven't created anything yet. We just set up our Hive. So now I have the full functionality. I can do Cloud Hives, I can do custom Hive. So let's kind of like reset and say, hey, we're set up, all the pieces. So now let's create that Scout. So let's start the timer here, 1:44 here on the East Coast. So click on Cloud Hive. I'm going to use a Cloud Hive. I put in the location I want to test from. I'm going to do VMware Horizon UAG. I actually am using Test Drive to test this. So I'm going to put in, oh, there we go, VMWTD. I'm going to put in my username. Now, we do recommend you to actually use a service account for this. That is recommended, but I'm just going to do it with my own credential just for this demo. Click on Get Resources. There we go. It has found a bunch of apps. And select the app you want to make part of your testing. So I'm just going to do Excel. Select the interval, how often you want to test this. I'm just doing 60 minutes, but it could even be as often as 5 minutes. And give the thing a name. We're going to skip the alert policy for now. I'll come back to that here in 1 second. But let's click on Save Scout, and I have my test set up. So within the next 2 minutes or so, the first test result will come in because it needs to run the test and collect the data before it will come back. So this is actually initiating now. It's 1:45. So it took me 1 minute to actually set up a Scout. That's how simple it is. And if I want to create more tests, so I just did Excel now. I would typically focus on those mission critical apps or those critical apps that really going to impact productivity. But you can create multiple Scouts, of course. You can also set up multiple Hives if you want that, if you have multiple locations, for example. So the product definitely gives you that flexibility. Now, it's great. Now we have the test running, but I didn't set up an alert policy. I still need to go in to look at the results. And we'll look at the results here in a minute. I will pull up another account because there will only be probably 1 or 2 test results by the time, actually only 1 because I said 60 minutes. So not too interesting to look at. So I'll pull up another account here in a minute. But I did want to talk about the alert policy. So the alert policy is, of course, what it makes it, you need to set one up because you don't want to have to look, go in here, look at the dashboard, did my test succeed? You want to be notified. You want that early warning. So when I set up an alert policy, of course, you can do, hey, send me an alert if a test fails. That is kind of the default. Or you can say, hey, if a test fails twice in a row, then send me an email. Or send a message through an incoming webhook. So if you, for example, have ServiceNow or something else, you can put in the endpoint address for the webhook. We even support the custom headers and fields, and you can get notified through that. But email is the easiest option. But it's not just only about tell me when a test fails, because there are other. Just delete that one. You can add other conditions that will trigger an alert. For example, and this is mainly so currently I'm using the kind of external connection. This is mainly about timing. So all these little steps, right? So think again back to the user, right? They go through the UAG or they launch their VMware client, they authenticate. We do support some types of multi-factor authentication as well. For example, with a PIN code or one-time password, or if you want to configure authentication bypass for that service account. So keep in mind that if you do the UAG, there are options there because that's typically a question that comes up. But so there's the authentication step, then there's the application or desktop enumeration, then the clicking, which kind of like grabs the configuration, establish the connection from the VMware client to the Horizon view session, and then the actual kind of like moment that the session is ready. So all these different steps individually, I can make them part of an alert policy. But the most interesting one is the combination of, right? Because it could happen that normally, let's say under normal circumstances, test run takes about 30 seconds, right? Or 20 seconds, let's say 20 seconds. But now there could be like some kind of issue on the network or with authentication, with Duo or whatever authentication you use there. And the test could still succeed, but it could suddenly take 40 seconds for that whole process. Now, maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we do give you the ability to be notified of that. If you use a custom Hive with direct connection to the connection server, we actually will in our upcoming release, so we have some new features coming out, we'll have what we call enrichment data for VMware, which also gives you the opportunity to have conditions based on, for example, round trip time. In the future, we will actually so we take a screenshot. Let's actually go back here and see if we have a test result. There we go. We have actually one test completed. So if you look at this test result, you see all these different breakdowns, right? So we can alert on those. In the future, we will also be able to do anomaly detection based on screenshot. So we will be able to say, hey, this screenshot was 50% different than kind of the baseline screenshot you provided. So, again, there could be a pop-up or an error message or something like that. Again, something that could indicate that there's something off with the test. And it's important that you kind of cover all these bases and set up the correct alert policies to be notified appropriately when there is a connectivity issue or when there is an issue with accessing the applications and desktops. All right, before we kind of go over to the Q&A, I did want to show you what a account that has been in use looks like. So this is an environment, so I'm having all kinds of things here. There's some VMware, there's some Citrix stuff, but this gives you a bit of an idea. We have the widget view. So here are all these different tests with the individual test results. I prefer, because I have quite a few tests, to use the list view. But you can see that it of course shows the results, how many tests were successful. Now here at the top is a combination of all, and I like to kind of start there because I like straight lines, right? Flat lines are good because that means that, first of all, the line means that there were no failed tests, right? If there would be a gap, then it means that there's a failed test. And straight lines mean that the timing, the total time to session ready, was fairly flat and fairly kind of predictable. If I see, for example, that it goes up, then it might be worth investigating. And I can actually click on there, right? And now it shows me all the tests in that time frame. So let's do that again, right? So if I click here on 10 a.m., it shows me all tests from that 10 to 11 a.m. time frame. And there was actually one with a failure. Let me just go back. There we go. You can see that, right? So this was a test with the Citrix environment. I couldn't download the ICA file. So now I have a good starting point for my troubleshooting. Now, it was only one, as you can see, right? The one before that was successful, the one after that was successful. So it could have been just, not been a big deal, but it might still be worth investigating. And, so our, being able to search these test results, I can just say this month. Oh, that's probably not much more because it is the 2nd of October. So I can do last month, right? And now I get to see all the results. So there is a lot of them because we run a lot of tests. But you can also filter it down. So I can say, okay, I just want to see them from a certain custom Hive. So there's various ways to get to the data and to get information. Now, we send an email when this condition was met, right? So for example, tests have failed. We will also tell you when it's recovered, right? So we also send the email like, hey, remember that previous test? Well, this test after that ran fine. We also do a daily digest that you can get a good overview of all the different tests. So there's a lot of good stuff about it. It does one thing today, and it does it very well. We have great plans. We're looking at not just testing virtual desktops and virtual apps. We're also looking into SaaS apps and web apps and network services and all kinds of things. So we have some great plans to go way beyond on what we do now. But this is what I wanted to share with you, and I hope that was useful for you. So I'm going to bring back Tom, and let's see if there's maybe some questions that still need to be answered.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I see a few questions here, and I'll just kind of run down them real quick here. Are Linux machines supported? Yes, yes, they are. Linux desktops are definitely supported. Is the stress configurable? The stress level is configurable. You can set those values to whatever you like. This is, I kick myself for this one. Is there a free trial available for ControlUp? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's either a 30 or 60-day trial. That's the complete product. Like I said, easy to install. If you can install in 5 minutes, there's really nothing to it. How about endpoints and VDI clients? Can you monitor those? Yeah, you sure can monitor some of those. Definitely the window. I actually do a fair amount of reviews on VDI clients, and I've seen a lot more of the Windows 10 IoT clients out there, and we definitely can monitor those. And we just got done doing a deal with iGel where we can monitor their clients as well. One more question there, triggers. Oh, what can be used to set off a trigger? Just about anything that we collect can be used to set off a trigger, so you have a lot of variety in there that you can do there. And let's see, that one about Horizon actions. Yeah, I think you're asking what Horizon actions can be done from the dashboard, and you can do things like reset machines and things like that from the dashboard as well. All right. You seen any questions that are popping out at you, Joel?
Yeah, there's some questions about the reports and if it can be sent to distribution lists. So, for Scoutbees, yes. For control real time, or at least the insights part, we can set up automated reports being sent to email addresses, or if there's an email address to a distribution list, that will of course also work. There's a question about profile-based reports. I'm not totally sure what we mean with that.
You kind of buried the lead there when you started your presentation. I saw Trent's blog on how Scoutbees actually detected when Microsoft Azure Active Directory went down and had an outage on that. Could you bring that blog up real quick on your screen? I think that,
yes.
I mean, the timing on that was horrible yet perfect for us. We've been monitoring it, and then finally, yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing we could really do about it, though, right? But at least you knew and you could kind of prepare for it. This was, of course, a big Microsoft issue the other day, and we spotted it directly on some of our machines running in Azure, and that's actually also, we don't really care where the workloads run, right? From a ControlUp point of view, not from Scoutbees, not from, on your own cloud, on somebody else's cloud. The agent, as long as we can see the agent, then it doesn't really matter. And obviously, from an availability point of view, this is a good testament to what Scoutbees really does in real life.
Yeah.
This is not some fake kind of graph. This was actually when it happened.
Yeah. So, like I said, people can go to ControlUp.com and download ControlUp. How do they get more information and get started on Scoutbees?
Yeah. So go to Scoutbees.io. There's a big button right on the first page saying Start Free Trial. It's a 14-day fully functional trial. You can create as many scouts and hives, etc., as you want. Now, the cool thing is that if you say like, hey, we're not ready for this yet, we don't want to save money by knowing when productivity goes down, well, it's possible that you make that choice right now. The cool thing is, after the 14 days, it reverts to the personal version, which you get to keep. So, which you can run one test with every hour. So that's not something we'll take away from you. But if you want to really use this in your production environment and want to run multiple tests, we can kind of be a la carte. We can get you one of these packages, but start with a trial on Scoutbees.io.
Oh wow! Stupid question. What's a Scoutbee?
Well, a Scoutbee is, I think it came from, so the person who kind of started this product inside our company, the idea was, kind of the beehive, and how the bees kind of fly out to get nectar and stuff like that and bring it back. These the bees are kind of like going out, testing all your, the different apps, and come back to report centrally here. So that's kind of where the Scoutbees, kind of combination came from.
Thanks for that enlightenment. It's one of those stupid questions. There are no stupid questions, only stupid people, right? Wait, no.
Well, not on this call. We know that for sure. So maybe yes. I don't know.
All right, and I think that just about wraps it up here for us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tom and Yoel, for taking the time to speak with us today. As a reminder to our audience, you will receive a follow-up email with the on-demand link from today's webcast. To find out more about the VMUG webcast program, visit vmug.com and check out the education page. Please make sure to complete the short online evaluation that will pop up as you exit the webcast, and let us know how today's session went. And from all of us here at VMUG, thank you and have a great rest of your day.